Welcome to TechGolly Weekend News.
This week's top headlines are: third major crackdown, U.S. tightens semiconductor export controls to curb China's AI advancements. UK cybersecurity faces rising threats. 2024 incidents surged by 16%. Chinese industry groups warn against U.S. chip purchases amid rising tensions. Global debt hits record $323 trillion as borrowing soars in 2024. EU scrutiny intensifies over NVIDIA's $700 million Run AI acquisition. General Motors faces $5 billion cost in China restructuring efforts. Bitcoin breaks $100,000 milestone, signaling a new era for cryptocurrencies. Turkey ends Meta investigation over Threads and Instagram data sharing practices. French President Emmanuel Macron pushes back against EU-Mercosur trade deal amid political turmoil. SpaceX faces Federal Communications Commission objection over Starlink expansion amid concerns about Musk's ties and environmental impact. The United States is set to implement its third major crackdown on China's semiconductor industry within 3 years. Beginning Monday, the Biden administration will impose import restrictions on 140 Chinese companies, including prominent chip equipment makers such as Nora Technology Group, Piotech, and Seacarrier Technology. These measures aim to hinder Beijing's chip-making and artificial intelligence advancements, particularly for military applications, which are perceived as potential threats to U.S. national security. The new restrictions will target shipments of advanced memory chips, high-bandwidth memory technology, and critical chip-making tools. Affected U.S. companies include Lam Research, KLA, and Applied Materials, alongside non-U.S. firms like Dutch equipment manufacturer ASM International. Chinese companies such as Suisure Technology, Qingdao and Shenzhen Pensun Technology, reportedly linked to Huawei Technologies, will be added to the entity list. This designation requires U.S. suppliers to obtain special licenses, often denied, to conduct business with these firms. The U.S. package will also introduce export controls on chip-making equipment manufactured in Israel, Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan, while exempting products made in Japan and the Netherlands. Expanding the foreign direct product rule strengthens the U.S. authority to regulate items shipped to China that incorporate U.S. chip technology. Additionally, the administration plans to tighten controls on memory chips used in AI applications, such as HBM2 and higher. This will affect companies like South Korea's Samsung Electronics, which generates significant HBM chip sales from China. These measures reflect ongoing bipartisan efforts to counter China's growing influence in advanced technologies. Republican Donald Trump's upcoming swearing-in is expected to continue these stringent policies. China's foreign ministry criticized the U.S. move, accusing it of undermining international trade and disrupting global supply chains. Beijing has intensified efforts to achieve self-sufficiency in semiconductors, but remains technologically behind industry leaders such as NVIDIA and ASML. The latest restrictions follow earlier U.S. actions, including the 2020 Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation designation to the entity list and the sweeping October 2022 export controls targeting high-end chips. According to Richard Horne, head of the National Cybersecurity Center, the United Kingdom's cyberspace is under increasing threat, with hostile activities becoming more frequent, sophisticated, and intense. Horne will highlight the growing danger and its implications for national security, as revealed in a government agency statement. The NCSC, part of Britain's GCHQ intelligence organization, reported a 16% rise in cybersecurity incidents in 2024 compared to the previous year. The incident management team dealt with 430 cases, up from 371 in 2023. Among these, 347 incidents involved unauthorized data exfiltration and a covert data transfer from a system, while 20 were attributed to ransomware attacks. Horne warned against underestimating the scale and severity of these cyber threats, particularly those orchestrated by state-sponsored actors and cybercriminals. The NCSC also issued 542 bespoke notifications to organizations affected by cyber incidents, a significant increase from 258 in 2023. These alerts provided detailed advice on mitigating risks and securing systems. In its annual review, the NCSC identified ransomware as the most immediate and disruptive threat to critical national infrastructure, including energy, water, healthcare, transportation, and telecommunications sectors. The report also raised concerns about hackers exploiting advancements in artificial intelligence to launch more sophisticated and potentially damaging attacks. Horne urged increased vigilance and proactive measures to combat the escalating threat landscape. To address these challenges, the NCSC advocates for stronger cybersecurity frameworks, collaboration between the public and private sectors, and adopting advanced technologies to bolster defenses. 4 major Chinese industry associations issued a rare coordinated warning on Tuesday, advising local companies to exercise caution when purchasing U.S. semiconductor products. The groups emphasized that U.S. chips are no longer safe and urged domestic firms to prioritize local alternatives. While the statements did not provide specific reasons for the claims about the reliability or security of U.S. chips, the move signals a significant shift in China's approach to semiconductor procurement. These associations represent some of the country's largest sectors, including telecommunications, digital technology, automotive, and semiconductors, with a combined membership of over 6,400 companies. Their coordinated stance could profoundly impact major U.S. chipmakers such as NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel, which have continued selling products in China despite stringent U.S. export controls. The warnings also come at a sensitive time, with trade tensions between the two nations escalating and President-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House looming. The Internet Society of China cautioned domestic firms against over-reliance on U.S. chips. It urged companies to explore partnerships with chip manufacturers outside the United States and adopt products from domestic and foreign-owned enterprises operating in China. The organization also highlighted that substantial harm caused by U.S. export restrictions to the growth of China's internet sector, framing the move as a threat to the industry's long-term development. Another prominent organization, the China Association of Communication Enterprises, declared that U.S. chips can no longer be considered trustworthy or secure. It called for an investigation into the integrity of the supply chain for critical information infrastructure, adding weight to concerns over potential vulnerabilities stemming from U.S. technology. These warnings follow the United States' latest crackdown on China's semiconductor industry, announced Monday. The crackdown extended export controls to 140 additional companies, including major chip equipment maker Nora Technology Group. The move mirrors previous actions, such as China's cybersecurity review of U.S. memory chipmaker Micron, which barred Micron from supplying certain domestic industries. Intel has also faced scrutiny from Chinese authorities, with an influential cybersecurity group accusing the company of compromising China's national security interests. This intensifying rivalry between the two nations is reshaping the global semiconductor landscape. With China signaling a stronger push for self-reliance and diversification in chip supplies, the ramifications for U.S. chipmakers and the broader tech industry could be far-reaching. Global debt surged by over $12 trillion in the first 3 quarters of 2024, reaching a record high of nearly $323 trillion, driven by falling borrowing costs and heightened risk appetite, according to a report from the Institute of International Finance. The Financial Services Trade Group highlighted that ballooning government budget deficits could push sovereign debt to approximately $130 trillion by 2028, posing significant repayment risks worldwide. The report emphasized that rising trade tensions and persistent supply chain disruptions undermine global economic growth. These pressures increase the likelihood of periodic boom and bust cycles in sovereign debt markets as inflationary trends resurface and fiscal policies tighten. Higher interest rates, a potential consequence of these economic shifts, could exacerbate fiscal stress, making debt management increasingly complex for many nations. The anticipation of Donald Trump's return to the White House has added a layer of uncertainty to global financial markets. His promises to reintroduce trade tariffs on key trading partners, including Europe, Mexico, Canada, and China, have prompted some issuers to accelerate borrowing activities before his administration begins in January. This preemptive strategy mitigates potential market volatility tied to unpredictable policy shifts. Despite the election-related uncertainties, the third quarter of 2024 saw a debt increase of unprecedented scale, marking the third-largest quarterly rise on record. Only the surges during the second and fourth quarters of 2020, spurred by emergency borrowing during the COVID-19 pandemic, exceeded this growth. While global debt-to-GDP ratios remain a critical measure of economic health, the report noted a slight decline in this metric due to robust economic growth, particularly in the United States. Debt to GDP has slipped to around 326%, over 30 percentage points below its peak during the pandemic-driven borrowing spree. Emerging markets also grapple with rising debt burdens, nearing $105 trillion, representing 245% of GDP. Debt service costs are escalating globally, with developed nations facing steep increases. Adding to this strain, efforts to meet global emissions reduction targets could contribute an additional $38 trillion to the world's debt by 2028. With significant debt maturities looming in 2025 and 2026, especially in emerging markets, the IIF warns of heightened risks of liquidity crises. Rising volatility and investor sentiment could leave some sovereigns vulnerable to financial shocks, further amplifying concerns over debt sustainability. European Union antitrust regulators are investigating whether NVIDIA has offered discounts to customers who purchase its GPU software products alongside its hardware. This inquiry forms part of their ongoing scrutiny of NVIDIA's $700 million bid to acquire Run AI, a company specializing in AI workload orchestration. A questionnaire distributed to NVIDIA customers reveals the EU watchdog's focus on potential bundling practices that could reinforce NVIDIA's dominant position in the GPU market. NVIDIA currently holds an 84% market share in GPUs, significantly outpacing competitors Intel and AMD. GPUs, known for their ability to efficiently process tasks by breaking them into smaller components, are crucial for various industries, including data centers, gaming, and cryptocurrency mining. The European Commission, tasked with enforcing competition rules within the EU, has raised concerns that the NVIDIA Run AI deal could harm competition in shared markets. The preliminary review deadline is set for December 20th. The Commission's questionnaire specifically asks whether combining GPU orchestration software with hardware gives NVIDIA a competitive advantage. It also inquires if customers have been required or incentivized, such as through discounts, to purchase software and hardware bundles. Respondents were further questioned about how their businesses might be affected if NVIDIA chose to operate Run AI as an open-source platform. Open-source models, allowing developers to access and modify software freely, could ease competition concerns by mitigating NVIDIA's control over the software market. This investigation underscores regulators' intent to scrutinize practices that could stifle competition in critical technology sectors. NVIDIA's GPUs are pivotal in fields such as artificial intelligence and cloud computing, and acquiring Run AI is a strategic move to consolidate its market leadership. However, the EU's questions suggest that bundling strategies could limit business choices, potentially disadvantaging rivals and customers. The outcome of this investigation could have significant implications for NVIDIA's acquisition plans and broader competition in the GPU and AI orchestration software markets. If NVIDIA cannot address the EU's concerns, it may face additional regulatory hurdles or be required to make concessions to complete the deal. General Motors announced it expects over $5 billion in non-cash charges and write-downs related to restructuring its joint venture operations in China with SAIC Motor Corporation. According to a federal filing, the automaker anticipates a write-down of between $2.6 billion and $2.9 billion to account for the reduced value of its Chinese operations. An additional $2.7 billion will address restructuring costs, including plant closures and adjustments to its product portfolio. While General Motors had previously disclosed plans to overhaul its China operations, the company did not provide further details on specific closures or changes. In an emailed statement, GM emphasized its commitment to cost efficiency and sustainable profitability. The restructuring costs, predominantly non-cash special item charges, are expected to impact GM's net income but not its adjusted earnings before interest and taxes, a key performance metric tracked by Wall Street. GM also noted that the joint venture could undergo a restructuring process without requiring new cash investments from the Detroit automaker. Once a significant profit engine, GM's operations in China have become a liability in recent years, driven by intensified competition from government-backed domestic automakers and a generational shift in consumer preferences toward electric vehicles. Equity income from GM's Chinese ventures peaked at over $2 billion in 2014 and 2015 but has since plunged, declining by 78.5% from its peak. GM's market share in China has similarly eroded, dropping from 15% in 2015 to 8.6% in 2023, marking its lowest point since 2003. US-based brands like Buick and Chevrolet have faced sharper sales declines than General Motors' joint venture operations, which accounted for 60% of its 2.1 million vehicles sold in China last year. Still, GM's Chinese operations have reported consecutive quarterly equity income losses this year, totaling $347 million. This includes a $137 million loss in the third quarter alone. Bitcoin surged past $100,000 for the first time, marking a pivotal moment for cryptocurrencies as investors anticipate favorable policies from a pro-crypto US administration. The total cryptocurrency market value has soared to nearly $3.8 trillion this year. Bitcoin's climb reflects its journey from a niche libertarian concept to a recognized asset class embraced by Wall Street, minting millionaires and fueling the rise of decentralized finance. The value of cryptocurrency has more than doubled in 2024 and has risen over 50% since Donald Trump's recent presidential victory, bringing numerous crypto-friendly lawmakers to Congress. Bitcoin quickly surpassed the $100,000 mark during Thursday's Asian trading session, reaching $103,335. Mike Novogratz, CEO of Galaxy Digital, called this a paradigm shift, emphasizing the growing institutional adoption, advancements in tokenization, and regulatory clarity propelling cryptocurrencies into the financial mainstream. Trump's administration has catalyzed the rally, promising to establish the U.S. as the global hub for crypto innovation and to build a national Bitcoin reserve. The appointment of Paul Atkins, a crypto policy veteran, as the nominee to lead the Securities and Exchange Commission signals a potential shift in regulatory oversight. Atkins' experience with digital asset policy has been welcomed by industry leaders who anticipate collaboration to drive innovation. Despite Bitcoin's history of volatility, including a drop below $16,000 in 2022 during the FTX collapse scandal, its resilience has fueled confidence. Institutional investors have played a key role in this year's record-breaking surge, with US-listed Bitcoin exchange-traded funds approved in January funneling over $4 billion into the market. Analysts estimate that roughly 3% of Bitcoin's total supply will be purchased by institutional players in 2024, signaling an increasing normalization of digital assets. The financialization of Bitcoin continues to expand with developments like futures, BlackRock's ETF, and booming crypto-related stocks. Companies like Coinbase and Mara Holdings have seen significant gains, mirroring Bitcoin's rise. Trump's new crypto venture, World Liberty Financial, adds further intrigue to the growing ecosystem, supported by crypto advocate Elon Musk. While concerns over energy use, crypto-related crime, and technological challenges remain, Bitcoin's unprecedented rise underscores its resilience. Russian President Vladimir Putin's recent remarks reflect its global momentum, asserting that no one can prohibit its growth. Economists acknowledge Bitcoin's unpredictable value but recognize its established role in the evolving financial landscape. Turkey's competition board announced its decision to terminate an investigation into Meta Platforms concerning data sharing practices between its social media platforms, Threads and Instagram. The investigation was initiated last year to determine whether linking these platforms violated competition laws. However, commitments provided by Meta to address these concerns were deemed sufficient, prompting the authority to conclude the inquiry. Meta assured the competition board that changes would be implemented to ensure compliance. These adjustments will allow existing and new Threads users to access the platform without requiring an Instagram account when Threads is reinstated in Turkey. The company also committed to preventing data merging between Threads and Instagram unless users explicitly choose to link their accounts. These measures address competition concerns by decoupling user experiences and data between the platforms. The investigation began after the Turkish Competition Authority raised concerns about potential anti-competitive practices related to integrating Threads and Instagram. In April, Meta temporarily shut down the Threads platform in Turkey to comply with an interim order issued by the authority. The suspension of Threads in the country highlighted the significant scrutiny Meta faced over its operations and data policies. The competition board welcomed Meta's commitments, stating they would resolve the issues raised during the investigation. By allowing independent access to Threads and ensuring data separation, Meta has demonstrated its willingness to adapt its business practices to meet regulatory requirements. The board emphasized that these commitments were sufficient to address concerns about fair competition in Turkey's digital market. Meta's resolution of this investigation marks a step forward in its relationship with Turkish regulators. The company has been increasingly scrutinized for its data handling and competitive practices. The changes in Turkey may set a precedent for how Meta navigates similar challenges in other markets. French President Emmanuel Macron strongly opposes the proposed EU trade agreement with the Mercosur countries, Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. On social media platform X, Macron's office declared the deal unacceptable in its current form, reflecting deep-seated concerns within France, particularly from its influential agricultural sector, over the perceived imbalance in environmental and regulatory obligations. As French President Emmanuel Macron navigates a political crisis triggered by Prime Minister Michel Barnier's resignation, this opposition comes at a precarious moment for him. His government collapsed following a no-confidence vote in parliament, and he faces the daunting task of naming a new prime minister who can secure a majority in a fragmented legislature. The political vacuum has amplified the influence of far-right leader Marine Le Pen, whose National Rally Party is now the largest in the lower house. However, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen remains resolute, urging European leaders to complete the agreement. In her post on X, she emphasized the importance of progress. However, Macron's resistance is not isolated. Poland has also criticized the deal, and there is widespread skepticism across France's political spectrum. Farmers have threatened renewed protests, describing the agreement as unfairly advantageous to South American countries. Macron's critics argue that the deal undermines the EU's commitment to sustainable trade practices. French officials insist that member states should review and approve the final content of the agreement before it proceeds, suggesting that the deal could still face rejection even if von der Leyen signs it. In his farewell speech, Barnier, before tendering his resignation, underscored his opposition to the agreement, signaling its contentious nature across French politics. The timing of this dispute is particularly challenging for Macron, whose decision to call snap elections in June bolstered Le Pen's political influence. This heightened uncertainty is troubling investors and could undermine France's capacity to shape European policies, including trade. For now, Macron must balance domestic challenges with his firm stance against the Mercosur deal, a position that resonates with many within his fractured political landscape. SpaceX's plan to deploy an additional 22,488 Starlink satellites has met resistance from the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, which has petitioned the Federal Communications Commission to block the initiative. The nonprofit cited CEO Elon Musk's alleged connections to Russia and concerns over the environmental impact of SpaceX launches in Texas. The Ukrainian Congress Committee of America's filing follows reports of Musk's influence in Ukraine's conflict with Russia. Starlink terminals were pivotal to Ukraine's defense after Russia's invasion in 2022, but Musk admitted to blocking a Ukrainian attack on the Russian Navy in Crimea by disabling Starlink coverage. The Pentagon has since taken over Starlink procurement for Ukraine, but Ukrainian Congress Committee of America President Michael Sokyu Jr. argues Musk's actions raise national security concerns. The group also raised alarms about Musk's rumored discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which was reported in October, and allegations of Starlink components being used in Russian drones. While Musk denied selling Starlink terminals to Russia, the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America insists a thorough investigation is necessary. Environmental concerns were another focal point of the petition. SpaceX's Boca Chica, Texas facility is accused of harming local ecosystems, including endangered species. Arthur Belendiuk, Ukrainian Congress Committee of America's Regulatory Council, criticized Musk's dismissive response to past incidents, calling for a halt to approvals until an environmental review is conducted. Musk's potential conflicts of interest, due to his role in the forthcoming Department of Government Efficiency, a federal advisory committee, compound these issues. Ukrainian Congress Committee of America argues Musk's position could influence government oversight and Federal Communications Commission decisions, benefiting his companies unfairly. The Federal Communications Commission may need to delay SpaceX approvals to address these legal, environmental, and ethical concerns. Despite Republican Commissioner Brendan Carr's dismissal of similar objections in April, his nomination as head of the Federal Communications Commission in the incoming administration adds another layer of complexity.